turn the mic on. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We wish to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land within the Shire of Chittering, the Yuwut and Wudjo peoples. We would like to pay respect to the elders of the Noongar Nation, past and present, who have walked and cared for the land. We acknowledge and respect their continuing culture and the contributions made to this region. I declare the meeting open at 7 o'clock on the dot. Just for the gallery, as per Council's Resolutions 1304/23, this meeting is live streamed. Item 2, record of attendances, apologies, approved leaves of absence and announcements. So attendance, we have all of Council, we have all of the staff, so thank you. Members of the public gallery, there are 2, and welcome. Media, there are nil. Apologies, there are no apologies. Approved leave of absence, there are nil. Announcements, councillors' attendance as elected members are recorded under this section of announcements. Councillors, are there any further items to add? I'll just add the Bindoon show, the agricultural show. I attended that.
Oh.
We all did.
We all did. We'll put it in all of them. Attendance in common then, I guess.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll leave it out. You can add that in later as attendance in common. Anything further to add? Thank you. Item 3, disclosures of interest. Councillors, are there any disclosures of interest of the matters before Council tonight? There are no disclosures of interest.
Put this in.
Item 4, public question time. Responses to previous public questions taken on notice, there are nil. Public question time. Are there any questions from the public? Thank you very much. Item 5, presentations, petitions and deputations. There are nil presentations, but there's a deputation. Deputation DEP 01, 1023 from Emily Parker. You will please come forward and give your deputation.
I've never done this before, and then you mentioned it was being live streamed, so now I'm very nervous.
That's okay, they can't see you much from there.
Oh, that's good. Am I just reading what I
Yes.
sent in? Right, awesome. So first, thank you very much for the opportunity to come and speak to you today regarding our submitted application. We believe that we've put forward a well-planned, well-considered and compliant management plan, which aligns to the current methods that we use on the property to manage our 2 horses. And it's in line with other plans. We actually borrowed a plan from someone else to prepare our plan because we weren't actually sure what to put him on. So we believe, further supported by the references that we've provided and provided to the Shire officer, that the complainant's objections to our plan are actually vexatious and are pretty much based in mistruths. So first we'd like to address the assertion that we had no regard to the stocking rates. We admit that we have at times had 2 horses on the property, but that was purely through a lack of knowledge on our part. We read the stocking rates incorrectly. Unfortunately, I'm not a farming type. I don't know what a DSE is. And I read it that it was 1 horse per hectare. So we obviously have 2 hectares, there we go, 2 horses. And so most of the properties around us have 2 horses. The lady who owned it before said that we were allowed 2 horses, and reading the stocking rates, we read them wrong. So within 2 weeks of receiving the complaint and understanding that we were not compliant, we presented a management plan. We do not want to be on the wrong side of anything. And we're not trying to avoid being compliant, and we really enjoy the lifestyle that we get here, which obviously for me includes holding our horses. They also suggest that we've regularly ignored their requests to clean up our property. They have not made any such request to us. We keep a friendly relationship with them. When they have requested us to do things, we've done them, such as when they requested that my horses were basically just putting their heads over the fences and they wanted that to stop, so we electrified all the fences. We want to keep a good relationship with them. And so when asked, we will respond to a reasonable request. If they had have asked us to do more than what we're doing currently, we would have talked to them about that, but they didn't. They also assert that our horses have broken pickets and damaged netting along the fence. There's no netting along the fence. There's also no trees that would require netting. And the fence line is in good order. We've walked it and checked it. There is one broken picket, but it's not actually causing any issues to the fence. They also suggest that our horses have led to an excessive fly problem, even in winter. This is a direct quote from their response. However, this was proved to be based in fiction. We actually had the Shire officer out after a couple of quite hot days to inspect the property. We actually invited them to come because we wanted them to see how we manage the property. But barely a fly, and certainly not the population that our neighbours contend that is coming from our horses. It's further supported by our neighbour at 30, who is down the other side fence of ours, who provided an email stating that they've never had issues with flies or with our horses or with any form of smell, even in the summer months, and they are actually the easterlies hit their house. So during the summer months, they would pretty much cop any issue directly from there. They have sheep. They also have offal pits on their property. They have horses to the other property side of theirs and to the rear of theirs, but apparently the flies come from us. However, when the Shire officer did come out, there was an excessive population. They also suggested our overflowing of our trough caused washing of horse manure and staining of their driveway. We've provided photos that show there is no staining on their driveway, and also that fence is also electrified, and my horses won't actually go near it with their backsides because they worry about getting electric shocks. So there's no manure to actually wash there. What we have done though in that space is we've actually created a more deeper divot to ensure that any runoff that comes off of that will be contained on our property and not have any opportunity to go any further. Because again, when we're raised with problems, we fix them. We have many methods of manure management and pasture management on the property. We harrow, we pick up, we physically remove. They're all in line with pretty much what other people around us do. We learnt from our neighbours. These were the first horses that we'd actually owned on property, but we've had horses on and off now for the past 4 years. We keep our paddocks well irrigated. We are lucky enough to have a bore and lucky enough that the previous owner put sprinklers in to all the paddocks. I think ours is one of the few when you look over the top of Chittering in the middle of summer, it's green. And we love that about our property. And so we maintain it because A, it looks nice, but B, it also saves on horse feed because they like the grass. We maintain our property to really high standards to prevent flies and noise and any unintended consequences to our neighbours. And our neighbours all around us have provided letters to that extent. So just in summary, we believe we put forward a well thought out plan for managing 2 horses on our property, which is compliant and comparable to other plans. For reasons unknown to us, our neighbours have decided to level mistruths and lies towards us in an attempt to block this plan from being approved, and we hope that our deputation satisfies the Shire such that we can get it approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you.
Next item of business is item 6, application for leave of absence. Do we have any applications? We do. Councillor Ross.
Thanks, Mr. President.
Councillor Ross, can you move your...
Yes,
Can I have a
I'd like
seconder for the...
to move that one, please.
I'll second it.
Councillor Dewar. Just 1 minute. Anyone? Don't think you need to speak to it. Anyone speaking against it? If not, I'll declare carried 7-0. So thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillors, are there any other? Councillor, sorry.
Yeah, I would like to request November 1st to November 10th.
Isn't that a bit premature?
Oh, was it yours? Oh, you're still in. Okay, disregard.
You have to be re-elected.
It'll be null and void if that's the case.
I don't think you can submit a leave when...
But there's not another council meeting to do it though.
Anyway, where it can be handled then.
We can handle that
Yeah, right.
at the swearing in.
No, same
Councillor
thing for me.
Campbell?
Also being presumptuous, so...
I just thought we had to do it at the previous council meeting.
One of you would.
Okay, so really there's only 3 of us who can submit a leave of absence today.
Doesn't matter. Is that what you're trying to say?
All right, okay.
I think I need to book in a holiday. Just kidding.
Item 6 is concluded. Item 7, confirmation of minutes. Councillors, you have the officer's recommendation to confirm the minutes of Ordinary Council meeting held on Wednesday the 20th of September 2023 as published. Can I have a mover for the officer's recommendation? Councillor Ross, thank you. Councillor Angus, seconder. Councillor Ross, do you wish to speak?
Just that they're prepared to the normal standard of quality that we're accustomed to.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillor Angus.
I have nothing else to add, thank you.
Councillors, anyone speaking against the officer's recommendation? I assume right replies not quite. So in that case, I'll declare carried 7-0. Item 8, announcements from the presiding member. There are 2. First thing, I'd like to, on behalf of Council, and I'm sure councillors will endorse this, congratulate the Bindoon Agricultural Society on running what I'd have to say is one of the best shows I've seen in quite a while. It was very, very well attended. The layout was actually very functional. I liked how that was done because that's different to previous years, so I thought that layout was quite good. There was ample food and ample shelter, so it was good. People could eat, they could sit in the shade, so I thought that was very good. So on behalf of myself, I'm sure I'm echoing it from all of Council, congratulations to the Bindoon Agricultural Society for putting on a sterling event, so congratulations. The second announcement is I'd like to thank all of our fellow councillors. This is the last council meeting for this council at this point until the election on the weekend. So I'd like to thank all of you for being valued contributions to the community and supporting each other through the process. And I wish you every success in the upcoming election. I also wish Neva Harris every success as well. So good luck to you all. And just one question from the CEO. On the counting of votes, when is the result known?
So the process is more complicated than previous years. However, with the fact that we only have 5 candidates, it is likely that we will have a quick result known.
But is that a quick result on the day as it used to be?
My understanding is that in our case, they count up till 10 o'clock at night. We've got 1,000 and something votes coming in. So they will count them, they will double check them, and maybe a third time. And I don't foresee it going beyond 10 o'clock at night. So I am quite confident that we will have a result on the same night.
Okay, so that clarifies that. I was unsure on that one. Thank you. Okay, no further announcements. I'll move on to item 9, reports. Development Services, DS01, application for development approval, real pursuit, keeping of horses at lot 203, Murray Grey Circle, Lower Chittering. Councillors, you have the officer's recommendation to approve the development application. Can I have a move, please? Councillor Angus, thank you. Councillor Campbell, just 1 minute. Councillor Angus.
Thank you. This item involves a variation to the planning policy in regards to stocking rates. So for 2 horses on a 2 hectare property instead of 1. And while there have been numerous previous approvals in the area for variations, including variations for more than 1 horse, this item has come before council due to the submission of an objection. The main point of the objections being irrigation water flowing onto neighbouring property and flies and smell from manure. There were also 3 letters of support, as we've heard, from surrounding landowners who were sent to us by the applicant. So we need to consider the environmental impact, the character of the locality and the social impacts. With rural pursuit hobby farm being discretionary in the zoning table, we can consider to approve it. The property already has an approved horse arena and stables already exist there as well. The application included a property management plan taking into account irrigation from the property bore, rotation of horses, provision of feed, stabling and cleaning of stables and raking of the paddocks. I believe the applicant has made a good effort to address the environmental impact. The character of the locality already includes many properties in the area with hobby farm type stocking, and the social impacts can be addressed by adhering to the property management plan and including the conditions proposed in the officer's recommendation. Having read the information provided by both the applicants and the Shire officers, and having viewed the photographs of the excellent appearance of the property, definitely the best in the street, I'm happy to support the officer recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Angus. Councillor Campbell?
So I also support the officer's recommendations. I did jump on Google and I noticed how green the property was and how well kept it was compared to your neighbours, and I commend that. You could just see it was well maintained. We move into this region, I mean, I suppose as city folk move here, and we have this vision of having different kinds of animals, horses, goats, sheep, that kind of thing. And I can understand the oversight of not having the stock management plan in place, considering you were told that it was allowed, and you've done the right recommendations and followed the right procedures. So I fully support this, and yeah, it should definitely go ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Anyone speaking against the officer's recommendation? Anyone speaking for?
I think it's been more than covered. I concur with the comments of the previous councillors.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. The only thing I'll add is I support the officer's recommendation and the granting of the application. I think it's well established. Council has previously approved under delegated authority 2 horses. In fact, there's a 3-horse approval there as well. So on the list, so it stands to reason that this would have been approved under delegated authority if it weren't for the singular complaint. And I accept that the proponent has a well-developed management plan and would appear from all intents and purposes is well managing the property. So I support the officer's recommendation. Councillor Angus, right of reply.
I've said it all, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Angus. Councillors, I'll put this to the vote. All those in favour? Carried, 7-0. You can go now. You don't have to stay. You can go. It's okay. Next item of business is technical service, for which there are nil items. Corporate services, CS01, list of accounts paid for the period ending 30th September 2023. Councillors, you have an officer's recommendation to endorse the list of accounts of just over $1.18 million. Can I have a mover for the officer's recommendation? Councillor Curtis, thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Ross by a thumb, I think. Councillor Curtis.
Mr. President, yes, I approve the list of accounts, but some of these, I'm not, I don't know what we can do about this overpricing of these Taste of Chittering accounts. There's one here for balloon twisting, whatever that, what's that got to do with Taste of Chittering, that's $600.
So do you wish to ask a question of the CEO?
Yeah, okay.
So
Balloon twisting.
when we set up an event to the public, there's not just the stall holders, etc. There's also some entertainment for the visitors and specifically for children. So making little balloon animals and things out of balloons for the children is always entertaining. So unfortunately, getting people out here to do entertainment costs money. And it was in the overall budget for the event.
Do you think we should just concentrate on the Taste of Chittering instead of entertainment for, I know, well, children's got their playgrounds and all that, but it's a Taste of Chittering, isn't it?
So at an event like that, you normally have additional entertainment like face painting, balloons, other stuff to make the whole event enjoyable for the whole family.
Councillor Curtis, any more questions?
Yeah, there's quite a few there. It's ambulance, they want $500. And we've got an ambulance station right next to the Oval. We have to have an ambulance there on standby for these events.
CEO.
Yes, we do have to have a...
Security, that's another thing, on and on. There's the expenses for this Taste of Chittering.
So
So Councillor Curtis, your questions are relating to these expenses.
Yeah.
I'll let the Chief Executive Officer answer all of them at once, if I may.
Thank you, yes. If when we put up an event, in the beginning of the year when we set the budget with council, we set an overall budget for an event and we stick within that budget. So everything that is required to host a successful event would then be included in what we deem necessary for the budget that would accommodate this requirements, statutory or other, to host a safe event for everybody to enjoy.
So
Maybe
Councillor Gertis, I'll add that I'll just add
Maybe
to that.
we should call it not Tasting Chittering Festival or something like that. That's maybe getting in. I don't know.
All right, but these requirements that we need to comply with are the same requirements event proponents have to comply with. So they all have to provide certain things to get their application approved. So we're no different. Any other questions, Councillor Curtis?
No.
Thank
Mr.
you,
President.
Councillor Curtis. Councillor Ross.
Thanks, Mr. President. No, I'm satisfied with the way the accounts have been put together. My perspective on Taste of Chittering is if you want families, then you must provide something for children to do. And because it's on the oval and there's not a playground there, you do need to have something that kids can actually do, or else their parents will go, and that's not what we're after. So, but overall, for the whole of the month's expenditure, well presented. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ross. Councillors, anyone speaking against the officer's recommendation? Anyone wish to speak for?
I have a question. Do we know how many people would have attended, a guesstimate, Taste of Chittering?
Should you have an estimate of the tourism?
I would have to get back to you on
So
that.
if it's 5,000 and everyone spends $100, is what, $50,000? Is my maths right?
Look, I mean, if you take, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So we made our money back and we exposed the greater region to a lot of people coming in.
I didn't
Okay.
spend $100.
You spent more. Anyway,
Thank
that's
you.
just a comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. The only, if everyone's there, finished, the only comment I'll make on specifically for the taste of tutoring is that it is an event that provides exposure to the community. People come here and hopefully they want to stay here. So Councillor Curtis, your next opportunity, should you be re-elected, to consider council's allocation to the budget. The total budget is at the next budget workshop. That's the appropriate time for which council sets the budget for these events, and for which I think
Yes.
you have your say then. After the money's spent, it's spent.
I just.
Anyway, that's fine.
So I just did
Yes.
have one question for the CEO. The fuel card purchases, do we not have a Bowser here? Is that only diesel?
Yeah, sorry, 3.
Sure.
We've moved away from the system that we've got here. We've got only emergency diesel here. We've only got fuel cards now. It gives us better control and it gives us more scope to control everything.
Thank you.
Councillors, any other questions? Okay. Councillor Curtis, you were the mover. You have right of reply.
That's fine, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councillor Curtis. Councillors, I'll put this one to the vote. All those in favour? Carried 7-0. Thank you. Next item of business is CS02, monthly financial report for the period ending 30th of September 2023. Councillors, you have the officer's recommendation to receive that monthly financial report. Can I have a mover for the officer's recommendation? Councillor Angus. Councillor Campbell. Councillor Angus.
Just to say thank you for the report. I'm happy to receive it. And nothing more. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Angus. Councillor Campbell.
Nothing to add. Thank you.
Councillors, anyone speaking against the officer's recommendation? Anyone wish to speak to the officer's recommendation? Okay. Councillor Angus, right of reply.
Nothing, thank you.
If there's no one speaking against, no right of reply required, I will declare carried 7-0. Thank you. Chief Executive Officer Section CEO 01, Work Health and Safety Statistic Reports, quarter ending September 2023. Councillors, you have a officer's recommendation to receive the Work Health and Safety Statistic Report ending September 2023. Can I have a mover for the officer's recommendation? Councillor Angus. Seconder, please. Oh, Councillor Ross, thank you. Councillor Angus.
Yes, thank you to the CEO for this report, as usual. Good to see we've had 24 drug tests and 26 alcohol tests and everybody passed. Also the incidents, a hot water incident, I believe the plumber was going to assess the issue, and a rear end car accident, which I guess if you're in front is unavoidable. It also showed numerous staff undergoing training and development, and also pleased to see that the KPIs include minimal overtime. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Angus. Councillor Ross.
No, nothing to add. I think Councillor Angus has covered it very well.
Councillors, anyone speaking against the officer's recommendation? Anyone wish to speak for? Two. Councillor Angus, you require right of reply.
Nothing to add.
Thank you. Councillor, in the absence of no right of reply and no one speaking against the officer's recommendation, I'll declare carried 7-0. Next item of business is CEO 02, review of Council Resolution 160822. Councillors, you have the officer's recommendation to review and close Resolution 160822 with no further action. That's the officer's recommendation. Can I have a mover for the officer's recommendation, please? Oh, Councillor Curtis. And then by default, Councillor Hughes was the seconder.
Well, my pen.
Your arm was up, but Councillor Curtis beat you by just a smidgen. Councillor Curtis.
Yeah, I support the, Mr President, I support the recommendation that we close this. I wasn't here for the initial when it came to council. I must have been away. Anyway, I wouldn't have supported it then, and I won't be supporting it now. I should be supporting the recommendation now, but not before. So, no, I'm against the, I'm for the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Curtis. Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Councillor King. I did second the resolution in question, and at the time we'd just come through, a period of years where there had been times when council meetings were going for an extraordinary amount of time because there was a lot of questions getting asked on the night, or questions getting asked of the CEO that might have been excessive in the content of them. So I felt like this was probably warranted at the time, but I feel like we've moved a fair bit past that now, so it's probably not relevant at the moment. So happy to support the officer recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Councillors, anyone speaking against the officer's recommendation? Anyone wish to speak for or to the officer's recommendation?
I suppose I'll add that, obviously, thank you. I did raise it, and as Councillor Hughes said, there was, I suppose, maybe a bit of over-management, but I'm glad we put it up, we gave it a try, and yeah, I'm happy to put it to rest, so it's time to move forward and worth a try. Nothing wrong with the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Councillor Curtis, if there's no one else, right of reply required?
Nothing to add, Mr President.
Councillors, if there's no right of reply required, no one speaking against the officer's recommendation, I'll declare carried 7-0. Thank you. Next item of business is CEO 03, Reconciliation Action Plan. Councillors, you have an officer's recommendation in front of you. Can I have a mover for the officer's recommendation, please? Oh, so Councillor Ross, you quick. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Angus, thank you. Councillor Ross.
Thanks, Mr. President. This is a matter that we initially passed a few years back now. I think that it's an important initiative for our shire to engage in. Some of our neighbouring shires, such as 2J, have undertaken this process to a point of completion and have an RAP in place. The importance of it is as a way of acknowledging the very long-term history of the region, the contribution of First Nations people who for 60,000 years have lived in the area. And so it particularly addresses pre-colonial and then early colonial eras to try and capture how did life change for our First Nations people and how do we set up the most constructive, positive relationships we can with them as members of our community. The most recent census in 2021 stated that we have 161 people resident in the Shire who identify themselves as Aboriginal, and that's an important part of our community. So a reconciliation plan is about building community. It's about building constructive relationships that are respectful among our people, and particularly noting those who are the First Nations people of our country. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillor Angus.
Yeah, I don't have much to add other than I think we've discussed previously. At the moment, we don't really know what this plan's going to look like, what it's going to involve, and we do need to engage with the Aboriginal elders for guidance on the best way forward. So it is going to take a period of time, and hopefully it will come to light exactly what we need to have in that plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Angus. Councillor, anyone speaking against?
I am.
Councillor Dewar.
Thanks, Mr. President. I would like a clear definition of a reconciliation action plan before I could make any decision or judgment on that, which I couldn't find last week during our agenda forum. It's way too open-ended, all this reconciliation plan, in my opinion. I mean, we're going to be speaking to the elders in the local area. I don't know who they are. I don't know their background, for example. What is it we're trying to achieve, and who's going to do all this? So, I'm struggling to support this recommendation because it's just too open-ended and a bit too messy.
Thank you, Councillor Dewar. Councillors speaking against it, Councillor Hughes.
Oh, I'm not speaking against
No,
it.
for it.
Yep. I think that perhaps the Reconciliation Action Plan could address some of those unknowns once it's developed. I've seen some really good ones in 2J and other shires. I think as time goes on, there's just going to be, kids learning about this in school now. It might help parents understand more about this area and answer questions their kids may have. I think that, the political climate is leaning towards, investing more in these areas, and I feel like it's inevitable that we are going to have to, make these plans and bring this, into the 21st century. So I think that, we're going to have to do it sometime. We'd best be getting ahead of it. So I'm happy to support the officer recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Anyone else wish to speak to the officer's recommendation? Councillor Curtis?
Mr. President, I support the officer's recommendation. I can't see any harm in the preparing a plan, or it says here guiding document. I think anything to do with communication with the local community about what we're trying to achieve we can't lose, really. If it doesn't come off, it doesn't come off, but if it succeeds, I'm all for reconciliation.
Thank you, Councillor Curtis. The other thing I'll mention is I support the officer's recommendation. I think Councillor Dewar asked some very good questions, and I think this process should serve to ask and answer those questions. So I think it's a process for which we don't have the answers, but we have the questions. So if we go through this process, we hopefully come out the other side with answers that will help us moving forward. So I support the officer's recommendation. Councillor Ross, you have the right of reply.
Thanks, Mr. President. Really just briefly, the Reconciliation Australia website has a great deal of information about the scope of what an REP would normally contain, but one of the things that it's very clear about is that it must arise out of a consultation discussion process between our Shire and the First Nations people who are part of the Eward and Wadjuk peoples that are the original inhabitants of this part of the Noongar Nation. So there is some solid information around. There are thousands of these plans in place around Australia now, so we're certainly not in the first group of people, trying to deal with this. And I'm sure that we can contact other local governments around, including 2J, who would be able to provide good guidance to us about how to proceed and learn from how they've approached the matter. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillors, I'll put the officer's recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? 6 against? 1. 6-1. Carried. Next item of business is CEO 04, Council Resolution Action Register. Councillors, you have a register in front. Does the CEO want to talk through, before we move and second the officer's recommendation? Or is Council, I'll leave it to Council to decide, does Council wish the CEO to talk through at a high level the outcomes from the resolution register, or do they wish to just move straight on into the vote?
I think we did have a quite in-depth briefing on this, and this report will be attached with the minutes, so the detail will be there for people to read at their leisure.
In that case, I'll put the officer's recommendation as read. Can I have a mover for the officer's recommendation, please? Councillor Hughes. Second to Councillor Angus. Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Councillor King. I think there has been these resolutions getting closed off over continuously over a large period of time, but we haven't necessarily been bringing the report to council to a council meeting. So we will be doing this from this point forward. So it's really good to see that a lot of those resolutions that we've been making are being closed off in a timely manner, and that the ones that are still open are for reasons of ongoing work being done on them. So there's nothing untoward in any of the ones that haven't yet been implemented. There's perfectly reasonable explanations, and that they're being followed through continuously.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Councillor Angus.
Thank you. I'm pleased to view this information in a report and be able to pass on to the community concise information on resolutions that were made and what the outcomes were. It's easy to see it in that report. Allows easy viewing of what the requests and resolutions are that are still in progress and what the plan moving forward for them is, or the reason for delay in resolving them. So I'd like to thank you very much for the report.
Thank you, Councillor Angus. Councillors, anyone speaking against the officer's recommendation? Anyone wish to speak for? Councillor Ross.
Thanks, Mr. President. I think just as much for the benefit of the community that we have any number of decisions made at a meeting, and then the role of the CEO is to implement all of that. The issue of needing this resolution tracker is that not everything can get done between this meeting and the next meeting. Some things really take a long time to happen, and sometimes real roadblocks appear in front of a resolution that we all thought was fine at the time, which we might need to either accept a long-term outcome of. So it is important for the community to understand the reality of the implementation of decisions, and this is a good transparency step.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillors, anyone wish to speak? Yes, I'll obviously support the officer's recommendation. I think it's also important to note that a number of these resolutions that were outstanding in the action register were historical. So they were here before the current CEO took her role, and a lot of effort's been done to close out the historical actions which weren't insignificant. So just on behalf of myself, and I'm sure of Council, we thank the CEO and staff for putting in that extra work. It's always a challenge to inherit, I guess, a legacy of outstanding actions for which you've got to close out. So thank you very much. Councillor Hughes, you have right of reply.
Probably just to add, just to reiterate that we do get regular updates on these in the course of our information sessions. It just hasn't necessarily come back to a meeting in this report previously. So, yeah, thanks for all the hard work, and I agree with their comments.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Councillor Hughes is right of reply. I don't believe anyone speaking against the officer's recommendation. In that case, I'll declare carried 7-0. Item 10, reports of committees. There are nil. Item 11, motions of which previous notice has been given. There are nil. Item 12, questions from members without notice. Councillors, are there any questions? Councillor Curtis.
Yes, Mr. President, just a question. Would it be, if it's our policy to reimburse community organisations with their insurance, is that legal through us? If it was our policy. I know it's not our policy, but if it was.
To the CEO, please.
So you cannot transfer risk to somebody else. So somebody needs to take out a policy to insure their activities. What the Shire has done to accommodate groups that are new and have been newly established is to allow a dispensation or a grant towards them to help cover the insurance. But we cannot take out insurance on their behalf. We can only give them, and our policy is to then give them for the first 2 years of that newly established group a financial contribution to assist them to buy their own insurance.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Curtis?
It doesn't. I'm thinking that reimbursement, they take out the insurance, but we reimburse them for their costs.
So that would have to be a council policy which would have to be discussed during a broader discussion than just this. And it would have to be seen in the context that if you're going to pay for a specific group's insurance with ratepayer money, and would the ratepayers in general be fine with it being done for all of the groups or not? Because you cannot single out a single group for that.
Thank you.
So just to add to that, just to be clear, Council's policy is to provide some funding for the first couple of years for new groups. There is no policy for providing funding going forward, as per the CEO's explanation. Councillor Curtis, any other questions?
I'll leave it. Maybe next year if I get back in.
Next month, maybe.
Next month.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Curtis. If there are no more questions, I'll move on to item 13. New business of an urgent nature introduced by decision of the meeting. There are nil. Item 4, matters closed to the public. There are nil. Item 15, closure. I declare the meeting closed at 7:43. Thank you. Sorry. you.